Hi, good evening. My name is Shannon Keith. I am the founder and CEO of Sudara. We are a social enterprise, as Farah said, that helps women out of sex trafficking in India. It's great to be here. I'm sort of overwhelmed with lots of inspiration that I gathered from each of the speakers. Thank you for sharing. You're awesome tonight. It's amazing and humbling to be sharing a stage with you. I've done a TEDx talk as well in the past, and it's sort of that same feeling when you just get people sharing their story and their narrative and what they're doing in the world to make it awesome. And we each have a story to tell. That's what's so cool. Like each of you in the audience could share your story, and it would be equally awesome. So thank you for indulging me the next few minutes to listen to mine. I'm probably one of the most unlikely entrepreneurs. Actually, it wasn't something like I didn't have this great, awesome egg roll empire at the age of 7 or something like that. That was so cool. I was like, yes, I want my daughter to be like that. She kind of is. So I'm excited to see like how a lot of those things can be innate. That wasn't necessarily my path. I found myself having a little bit of what they call like a quarter life crisis, like in your late 20s. And I had landed a good corporate gig. I was in sales, so it was the whole, I got the company car and got to make my own hours. I had 6 weeks paid vacation. I got to train for Hawaii in 6 weeks. I was like, this is an awesome gig. I was making 6 figures in my mid-20s. And it was like, all right, but why am I not happy? Why am I dying inside and hating my job? Like, this is it? This was the hype of college and the American dream and all of it. And I'm only like 20 something and I'm still over it. Like, how is this possible? So had a little bit of that experience. Has anyone ever felt like that in the room where you're just like, what am I doing here? And then I heard there was like a name for it, right? It's called the golden handcuffs. Yes. And I'm like, oh, great, I'm doomed, because there would be, here I am in my 20s and just like kind of lamenting over this. And then I'd have some coworkers who were like in their 40s and now they're married. And I felt that way too, honey. And I'm like, and you're still here? Oh, like that's horrible. I can't believe, why did you tell me that? And it was the gig. It was like, because what else am I gonna do? Like, we got a sweet deal here. What else am I going to do? And then I got married and still unhappy, but I was like, hey, 6 weeks paid vacation, a sweet job, like let's go traveling. So that's what we did, and we traveled, and I've always had kind of a heart for the poor and the underdog and that sort of thing, right? So whatever that was, experiences from my childhood and others, I would just feel this sense of like, oh man, even a sports team, it's like the Bad News Bears. Yeah, that's a good movie because, they're the underdog and they come and save the day. And so our travels a lot of time found us not at like 5-star resorts in Hawaii, but it would be like, we're going to Mexico on a house building trip. We're going, to China. We're going to South Africa, not to the pretty part, but to work with AIDS orphans or whatever. And that was so much part of kind of our experience because that felt like it gave me life. That part that I was missing in my job, this was something that I felt really connected to and centered. And so one of the trips brought us to India back in 2005, and we were dedicating a fresh water well for my in-laws' 40th wedding anniversary. What do you buy your in-laws? They have everything. If they needed something, they'd buy it themselves, that kind of thing. And so they were really interested in like philanthropy and giving, so we thought, oh, this would be great. So went with an NGO partner that was in India, and they would get applications for needy communities, and then, our ticket came up and we were matched with this community, and so we went. And as the woman on the trip, I was asked to say a few words to the ladies of this community. And I was like, oh, just the ladies? That's weird. Like, where are the men? And then we come to find out that this is a red light community. And so most of these women are sex workers. It was like, well, really? What does that mean? This was in 2005, before the term human trafficking was on, or sex trafficking was on anyone's radar. So come to find out that this whole community of hundreds, it was a couple hundred women and their children were forced into this lifestyle. So they were either born into it, sold into it, tricked into it, had no other options. I was mortified, devastated, heartbroken. I was asked to say a few words, then I felt completely like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna say? I come from this very privileged position. I don't want to come across as condescending or trite. It was just a very pivotal moment in my life that actually changed the complete trajectory of my life. And so I kind of stumbled through, just saying what I said. I don't even remember. I'm sure it wasn't eloquent. But I do remember I can put myself back in that scene just like that. And it was like over 12 years ago, where it was probably a group about this size actually, but they were sitting on the ground, and it was just the dirt ground under this big shade tree. And it was during the day, because of course that's when they do their laundry and do their chores, because at night they're going to be servicing men and all of this stuff. And then it was like the middle of the week, like a Wednesday, and all these little kids were running around, not going in school. So I'm like, why aren't these kids in school? And it was like, well, public education isn't free and they can't afford to go to school. And so great, shoot, now here's this whole generation of uneducated, illiterate, fatherless children. Like, this is a horrible situation. Why does no one know about this? Why didn't I know about this before I came here for this fresh water well dedication? But in that moment, there was so much clarity. I just remember it was sort of this flash of inspiration that was like, if these women are ever able to pull themselves out of this situation, they need a job. If they don't want to sell their bodies for sex night after night, they need something else to do. And if they want to send their kids to school, how are they going to pay for that? And so they need a lot of things. They need counseling, they need healthcare, they need all this stuff. But at the very essence, they need a job, and a dignified job. They don't need handouts. These are adult women. Like, handouts are great in tsunami situations, or for children, or for people who can't work. But for able-bodied people who want to work, who have hopes and dreams, I gotta believe, because they have a soul, they need something else. They need an option. They need an opportunity. They need a choice. And so all of this is happening. It takes me longer to speak it than it was to think it, because it happened in like half a second, really. And it was just this flash of inspiration. If they could make something, I could sell it, because I could give access to market. At the end of the day, I'm a sales girl. That's my shtick. That's how I make money. And it could be a win-win. And again, it's this sort of like coming together right from the get-go. It was never like, oh, poor them, me helping them in this like hierarchy. It was definitely like, no, a togetherness. I need purpose too. One of my favorite quotes is from an Aboriginal leader, Leela Watson. I don't know if you guys have heard this quote, but it says, if you've come here to save me, you're wasting your time. But if, however, somehow your liberation is tied up in my own, then let us work together. And I didn't hear that quote until after, but it completely became my mantra and totally resonated with me, because that's exactly how I felt in that very moment, which was like, okay, this is it. I think I'm coming out of my quarter life crisis here. And so the first leap was just coming back and not really knowing what to do, but I thought pajamas right away. For some reason, it came into my mind, because they were all wearing these beautiful saris. And it was a surreal moment that was completely juxtaposed, because what happened was they were beautifully adorned in these saris, but their faces were completely blank, and they had no life in their eyes. And I don't know if you've ever talked to someone like that, where the eyes are the window to the soul. I don't know if Shakespeare or someone said that, but I think it's really true. And to look at a whole group of people that were like blank and lifeless was really just harrowing on one hand. But I did notice the juxtaposition was these beautiful textiles that India offered, and it was like this lovely part of their culture. So anyway, long story short, took a big suitcase full of stuff home, and I didn't know how to sew, but I was like, hey, girlfriends, I'll give you wine and chocolate. Whoever can sew, bring your sewing machines to my house, and let's mock up some little pajamas, and I'll do some market research, and this kind of thing. And then at the same time was doing, who's working with this population of women? This NGO that we went with was like helping provide water wells, but they weren't doing like job creation or anything like that. So I had to do, in my side job, market research and what's going on, and would this work, and what would people pay for them, and does anyone in India even want to create jobs for this population of people? Thankfully, there were a few, not a ton. There are more now, 12 years later. But that's how it sort of started. When I came back, it was this paradigm of, oh, you want to help people? You need to start a nonprofit. I was like, okay, well, I'm in business. I've never started a nonprofit. That's weird, because I want to create jobs. But I was like, oh, 20-something, these are like 50-year-old business people. They know what they're doing. And they say to start a nonprofit. So that's what we did. We started a nonprofit. Then fast forward a few years later Tom Shoes shows up on the scene. And I was like, damn it, we should have started a business. Why did we start a nonprofit? Our story's better. Like, we're not just giving stuff away. I mean, I'm all for Tom's. I'm even wearing some. I appreciate that they've pioneered this space, a social business. But at the end of the day, giving people stuff does not change the world. Newsflash, right? Newsflash. I have 3 kids. They wear out of shoes in about 5 minutes, right? So, like, that doesn't change the world. But giving people jobs, that's a game changer. Those moms can buy their own kids' shoes. Yay! You know, that's a game changer. And as entrepreneurs, that's what we do. We create jobs, not just for ourselves, but for communities, for marketplaces. Like, that leap, I was like, oh, I missed the boat. I took the wrong leap. I shouldn't have done a nonprofit. We should have done this, you know, as a business. And so that took a little while, because in the meantime, I was living in Southern California. My husband and I were like, yeah, we want to eventually start a family. We don't want the rat race. We want to get out of it. We want to move to Bend, Oregon. It's awesome. We love to mountain bike. We love to snowboard. We love everything. At the time, it was like, we don't know what the heck you do for a job there, but we'll figure it out. And now, Bend has a really cool entrepreneurial ecosystem that's actually pretty awesome and thriving and active. And it's fantastic if you want to go to Bend and start your business or think about Central Oregon. It's beautiful. We love it. And so there was this leap of faith that I had to say, dang, pivot. We want to help more people. We're a nonprofit. We want to be a business. And Tom's is proven because all these people copycatted, 1-for-1 everything, toothpaste, 1-for-1, vaccines, eyeglasses, you know, whatever. This model, what it shows is that there's a conscientious consumer out there who actually cares, who actually wants to spend their consumer dollars doing something that they care about. And so in 2014, made the decision with the board. I was just all this time as a founder and volunteer, and then decided, hey, let's make a pivot. Let's help more people. Let's accomplish the mission of, at the time, the nonprofit, and let's do this as a business. We can keep the nonprofit, so 2 separate entities. It took a while to do that. Legal structuring, it's fairly hard for nonprofits to sell their assets to for-profit entities unless you can prove the social mission behind it. Did that, had to file with the state attorney of California, blah, 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 all this stuff. So fast forward, so Sudara Inc. is the name of the business that I started that is a business that's all about women's apparel, mostly lounge pants and accessories and graphic t-shirts that are all about freedom. And at the end of the day, we're not a pajama building empire. We are about job creation, and we're about the next iteration of social enterprise. And so just like Tom's did this thing and everyone's like, oh, that's awesome, and they got on the bandwagon, we want to be that social enterprise 2.0. We not only want to have a smokin' hot, profitable business, which we have in the first 2 years, but we really want to be a model to say we can do things differently. We can change the world. We fall, we fail, we take the leap. Sometimes there's a safety net, sometimes there's not. You know, you brush yourself off, you have some bruises and bumps along the way, but it's totally worth it. And so when I think about this topic, which I love, taking the leap, it's like I'm taking leaps, I feel like every single day. It's like a waterfall of just cascading leaps. And sometimes I feel like Indiana Jones and there's like lava and I'm like, oh my gosh, and I'm just jumping from one thing to the next, just kind of hoping the next steps, you know, will appear. But the really cool part is not just, oh, we're doing something awesome in India or whatever. We're creating jobs that people love and want to do here so that they don't feel like they have to wear the golden handcuffs. And they don't feel like they have to take a vow of poverty by working for a nonprofit that can't pay them to do something cool. Like, why is that our only viable option? When we talk about some of these buzzwords of like innovation and we want to be awesome, and like, what does that actually mean? That does not mean that we have to keep doing the same things we're always doing and then like something amazing is going to happen, you know? So I'm just super excited, as you can tell, about bringing the ethos of business back to business. I look forward to a day when it's no longer called social entrepreneurship, it's just damn good business. Like, can we just call it that? So we at Sudara are just all about being a transformative, innovative business model. I think there's a new era that's before us where nonprofits and for-profits can work together hand in hand and tackle the hardest issues that are facing our world today. That's the only way we're going to get it done. It's about collaboration, it's about being smarter, and it's about taking a leap together. That's my jam, and I'm sticking to it. Thanks for having me.